Rafael Nadal has officially played his final professional tennis match after losing in singles during Spain's Davis Cup quarterfinal tie against the Netherlands. Spain's 1-2 loss marks the end of Nadal's illustrious 20-year-long career that saw him pick up 22 major singles titles. Now, despite a legendary career as his, Rafa's final moment as a professional tennis player felt somewhat anticlimactic as he had no control over his final fate in those closing moments. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you join Christian's crew and so that you're notified whenever I post more tennis content like this. Yes, Rafael Nadal played his final professional tennis match when he lost to 80th ranked Dutchman Botic van de Zandschulp 6-4, 6-4 in the first rubber of the Davis Cup quarterfinals. This isn't Botic's first big win over a Spaniard, as of course a few months ago he pulled off one of the biggest upsets of the century when he defeated the then world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets at the US Open. Botic is a bit streaky, but when he is on, he's on and kind of tough to beat, and the Dutchman was definitely very solid today against Rafa. Obviously, the 38-year-old Nadal was far from his best as he did not showcase that trademark explosiveness that we are accustomed to from his movement from the ground, and plus, he just wasn't as solid from the ground. And some of that is due to him just not playing a whole lot of tennis lately, as his last professional match was at the Olympics in the summer, but just the man simply isn't the player he once was, which is of course why he is retiring from the sport. It was really mainly all Botic in this match, who was the clear better player on Tuesday, and Van de Zandschulp, being the superior mover, tracked down so many balls while still hitting punishing ground strokes, which constantly put Rafa under duress. Botic's biggest weaknesses were his serve and his nerve, and the Dutchman threw in some inopportune double faults at times, and he looked close to fumbling that 4-1 double break lead in the second set when he went down 30 at 4-3. However, like he did against Carlos in New York, Botic controlled the nerves well enough to close it out in straight sets. After the match, Rafa said that even if Spain defeated the Netherlands in this tie, that was probably going to be his final ever singles match because he knew likely that he just did not have what it took to bring Spain its 7th Davis Cup title in singles at least. Rafa, though, was able to find a silver lining in the loss, and he said in his press conference that it was a kind of a full moment for him as he lost his very first Davis Cup singles match back in 2004. Then 20 years later, he suffered his second ever Davis Cup singles loss, going a total of 29-2 in team competition in the singles. Carlos Alcaraz, he did keep Spain alive after he beat Talon Greek Spor 7-6, 6-3. Alcaraz and Marcel Granollers took the court for the doubles, deciding doubles tie against Wesley Koolhof and Van de Zandschulp. When the Spanish duo, they ultimately lost though in 2 tiebreak sets. Granollers and Koolhof were the 2 double specialists on court, being ranked 4th and 8th respectively. Alcaraz was actually though the superior doubles player to Granollers, his partner, and I think Marcel, he was definitely very kind of subpar as he was in the ATP finals last week. Granollers kind of sabotaged, honestly, the Spanish duo, and especially with his subpar serving. The more experienced Koolhof, though, carried his partner as he was on fire in pretty much all aspects. Definitely, Koolhof was the MVP out there in the doubles match. Koolhof, by the way, he's also retiring after the Davis Cup himself, so at least his career is still going. But obviously, most of the tennis world wanted Spain to win so that Rafa could have another shot at having his fairy tale ending. But like Rafa said himself, that type of fairy tale stuff only typically happens in the movies. This was honestly a disappointing way for Rafa to end his career. I'm sorry. Yes, he did contribute to the final result, but that final moment wasn't on his racket, and it just wasn't in his hands. It is good, though, that Rafa was able to say goodbye in his home country in Spain, but I wonder if maybe the Olympics would have been a better farewell for him overall, but, it is what it is. Hindsight is 2020, and obviously the team felt that Marcel and Carlos would have been the better team, and they were thinking about it long term. They weren't totally thinking about, we got to think about, Rafa and this being his last moment. They're trying to win the Davis Cup, so they thought that this was the best shot for them to advance to the semifinal round. And people thought it would would have been a better idea for Roberto Bautista Agut to step in and play singles instead of Rafa against Zandschulp, and then they would have had Nadal and Alcaraz play the doubles. Now, Rafa did say if he were the captain, he wouldn't even put himself in, so that says a lot. Clearly, Nadal didn't even feel 100% confident in his ability to lead Spain to another Davis Cup. Honestly, I'm not mad at Captain David Ferrer's decision. Perhaps Rafa, he wanted to play singles one last time, so while this wasn't obviously the ideal outcome, these things happen, and it's the risk you make in these type of situations. After the doubles match, Rafa, he had his official retirement ceremony with the likes of Serena, Novak, Andy, and Roger sending in video messages to commemorate the legend. Nadal then addressed the crowd in Spanish, and he ultimately said, "I would like to be remembered as a good person from a village in Mallorca. At the end of the day, being honest, a lot of people work hard and try their best every day, but I am one of the ones lucky to have the life I have, to have the unforgettable experiences. I want to be remembered as a good person, a kid that followed their dreams and achieved more than I ever dreamed possible." I think that's a beautiful way to remember Rafa. He did pretty much everything he wanted to do in his tennis career, and he leaves the sport for real with no regrets. It is a shame that Nadal didn't go out on top and leave the sport near his best, but that's just not feasible, to be honest. I am happy though that he was still able to kind of leave on his own terms and play one last singles match. Honestly, it still doesn't really feel real to me that Rafa is retiring, as I think it's a bit weird to me because we haven't seen that much of him in the past 2 years, but still it's a tremendous loss in the sport and a definite end of an era. I remember getting into tennis about like 13, 14 years ago and being enamored by Rafa's grit and unwavering tenacity, and he's a true inspiration not only just for me but so many countless millions of people around the world. He always carried himself with such grace and integrity, and he didn't break a single racket throughout his career, which hardly anyone else can say. Of course, Nadal will be remembered as being the undisputed king of clay, but he was a truly phenomenal player, even clay aside. But above all, Rafa is a phenomenal person and role model for the sport, and he will definitely be missed. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention, I know there were a lot of complaints about Tennis Channel's coverage of Rafa's retirement speech, and they were just talking over it. I understand that like none of them knew Spanish, so they had to come up with something, but they could have got some Spanish speaker in that day to translate whatever Rafa was saying. I felt that that definitely diminished things too, especially if you're watching from the States. If you weren't watching from the States, hopefully you got better coverage, but yeah, it wasn't a good look for the commentators just to be rambling on and on. They probably should have they would have been better off just letting Rafa speak in Espanol for that case. Now on Tuesday, Rafa definitely received his flowers as the tributes came pouring in. Nike put out all the stops as they first produced a nice edgy ad commemorating the legend's retirement from the sport. They also changed its official logo on all their socials to Rafa's iconic bull logo. And that's not it though. Nike put together this really cool effect projector thing at the Trocadero in Paris, which is fitting as the Spaniard, of course, won a record 14 Roland Garros titles in the city. Rafa's former rival and good friend Roger Federer penned a very heartfelt letter to Nadal where he talked about Rafa's famous superstitions like him fixing his hair and fiddling with his undies. Roger said he secretly loved it because it was so unique. So Rafa. Federer went on to say that Nadal made him enjoy the game even more and made the 20-time major champion reimagine his game, going as far as to change the size of his racket head, hoping for any edge against him. Of course, Roger was referring to that 2017 Roger Renaissance. Federer went on to recall their first ever match at the 2004 Miami Open, where 17-year-old Nadal truly announced himself to the world, the tennis world, after beating the then world number one Federer in the third round. The Swiss maestro also mentioned their record-breaking exhibition match in South Africa back in 2020, as well as when Federer attended the grand opening of the Rafael Nadal Academy in 2016. Finally, Federer talked about his own farewell to tennis at the Laver Cup in 2022, where he and Rafa took the court as teammates for Federer's final match. He ended the letter by saying, "I want you to know that your old friend is always cheering for you and will be cheering just as loud for everything you do next." Serena Williams, aka Nadal's booty twin, posted a video wearing the Rafa Nadal headband with the caption, Congrats on a career that most won't dare to dream of. I feel so fortunate to have been able to play when you were playing and being great. You inspired me to be better, to play harder, to fight, to never give up, and to win more. No excuses, just play the sport. Your legacy will never die. To see your career from the beginning to today was an honor, champ. Long live Rafa. Maria Sharapova also posted about Nadal too, as did Iga Swiatek, who we all know adores the Spaniard. Speaking of Swiatek, the Poles 2024 season did officially end on Monday. The Billie Jean King Cup finals are also taking place in Malaga, Spain, and they're much further along. Our finalists are already set, with Slovakia and Italy dueling for the title. Italy defeated Iga Swiatek and Team Poland 2-1 on Monday in the semifinal tie. Iga had to do a lot of heavy lifting after Magda Linette suffered a 6-4, 7-6 upset loss to Lucia Bronzetti, who was ranked 40 spots below her. Swiatek, though, tied the proceedings after earning an impressive 3-6, 6-4, 6-4 victory over Jasmine Paolini, who she had never lost more than 3 games to in their 3 previous meetings. Jasmine had 5 break-point opportunities in the second set, but giving credit to Iga, the Pole was just simply too clutch in the big moment. Jasmine, though, got her lick back in the deciding doubles rubber when she and Sada Irani beat Iga and her partner, Katarzyna Kawa, 7-5, 7-5. Irani and Paolini are the Olympic gold medalists, so they were the massive favorites to take this one, but Swiatek and Kawa had a strong opportunity to really win this match in straight sets. They held 3 set points in the opening set, and they led 5-1 in the second set before losing the last 6 games in a row. This was a disappointing moment for Iga, definitely, because we know how much she loves playing for her country and how much it means for her, and yet again she falls a bit short. She barely lost in the United Cup finals. She lost in the Olympic semifinals before bringing home a bronze, and now here she loses in the Billie Jean King Cup semis. It is unfortunate that Iga couldn't get any help from Linette in winning that singles match, but I think Swiatek will sooner or later win a title for Poland in a team setting, whether it be United Cup or Billie Jean King Cup. And for some reason, if she doesn't, at least she'll always have that Youth Olympics gold medal from 2018. Italy will be the favorite in the Billie Jean King Cup finals when they take on Slovakia, who eliminated Great Britain 2-1 in the semis. Emma Raducanu, she remained flawless with her 3rd straight sets win of the Billie Jean King Cup, defeating Victoria Frontakova 6-4, 6-4. However, Katie Bolter was unable to get the job done against the red-hot Rebecca Shramkova, who won 2-6, 6-4, 6-4. Things were pretty anticlimactic, though, after the doubles team of Frontakova and Michalkova dominated Heather Watson and Olivia Nichols 2-2. Slovakia is going for its 2nd cup title after winning for the first time in 2002, while last year's runner-ups, Italy, seeks its 1st team trophy since 2013 and their 4th overall. That is it for this video, and let me know what your thoughts were on Rafa's retirement and whether you felt that this was a proper fitting end to the legend's career. Also, feel free to share your favorite Rafa Nadal moments in the comments. For me, it'll be either the 2022 Australian Open final comeback win over Medvedev, or I think the 2020 Roland Garros final against Djokovic was probably his most dominant display in a Grand Slam, or one of them at least. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post new content, like I mentioned before. Thank you all again so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.